Bears beats Battlestar Galactica.
You really adopted the dark. I was born in it.
Sounds like somebody's got a case of the Mondays.
Bazinga.
2 in the box. Ready to go.
We be fast.
They be slow.
Cool.
Okay, there we go.
After you told me about the clicking, I was like, there's something because I just put this episode out without even looking at my notes, which I usually never do. But because it was already a week overdue, I was like, fuck, just put it out. And then the moment you said there's a clicking, I'm like, I feel like I should have written that down. And not only did I write that down, but also at the 25-minute mark, apparently something happened that the recording stopped. That it didn't stop. It's just that I should have edited out. I don't know if somebody got distracted.
And you went 25 minutes. I'll edit that. It's still in the episode.
Wait, you left that in?
Yeah, because I forgot because we recorded this like a month ago, and so over a month ago, and then it was supposed to go out last week, and then I didn't. I fucked up, and then this week I was like, fuck it, just release it. Like I'm already sitting here, just fucking let it go. So I posted it. And then the Bona in the group chat in our group chat was like, "Oh, there's clicking," and I'm like, "Man, I feel like I should have made a note about that." So I looked through my notes. I looked through my notes. Not only did I make a note about the clicking, I also added 25 minutes edit out, and it was something that like I guess I don't know if I took a phone call. I don't know what happened. I don't remember what happened, but I remember specifically I wrote it down. 25 minutes edit out, and all right, there it goes.
Yeah, apparently Steph kept doing this to her AirPods or something.
Yeah.
Clicking was.
Yeah, it was either that or she was playing with it with the thing, and it was Steph being Steph, man. All right, hold on. Dun.
Oh, I need my list. Hey, Debona, what do you think of Shane's Fight Club idea?
So it's interesting, and I think that right now they're doing a lot of things where they're like, just do it. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Just go, because I think they kind of have a plan for retribution, but not much of one. And I'm pretty sure that those aren't the actual members that are showing up on TV. I think they're using offers they're putting in masks. But after the first week, I called my buddies and I was like, they had better extend this to women next week, and I'd better see Shayna Baszler. So I got hyped this week because I'm excited to see Shayna like in her element doing that and just whipping on folks. So
I feel like
I'm glad they got rid of the go-go dancers.
I'm gonna watch for it, but I might pay for the WWE Universe again if this takes off. Because I feel like this is going to be what NXT was to Triple H. This might be like Shane's little baby.
Yeah, so I'd like to see it become something. And like I said, I'm glad they got rid of the go-go dancers. They felt unnecessary and stupid.
Hang on, guys.
I should probably check to see if I'm still getting charged for the WWE Pack app.
Network.
Because I signed up for it because the first month was free, and I don't think I ever signed off of it.
Probably you are then.
Yeah, that's. Go check that out. All right, we're recording. Welcome to the MtGeekmore podcast, your favorite podcast, where you come to listen to people talk, debate, and argue over their favorite top 4 Mount Rushmores, if you will, of their favorite pop culture subject. Today's pop culture subject, as you can tell by looking at your listening device, is our favorite cinematic school teachers. School is about to, down here in Miami, school is about to restart, even though we're still in the middle of a pandemic and we're the fucking epicenter, but whatever. It's okay, Governor DeSantis. You fucking do whatever you think is right.
Get me out!
Get another job. Anyways, because of the fact that people are going back to school, and we actually have 2 educators on the panel, that's usually on the panel, I thought it would be a good idea, and I thought it would be long overdue to give our teachers some respect, our cinematic teachers some respect. So we are doing this episode. I am Nary Science. With me, as usual, is David.
Howdy.
And we have Daniel DeBona.
What up, y'all?
And then we got Missy.
Hello.
Misdemeanor.
Not that
back
one.
in the house. I didn't say Elliot. I said misdemeanor. No. Yeah.
We're having an off day.
Uh,
I'm gonna be cool.
uh, so let's go around the horn and talk about how you guys came up with your list. Let's start off with David, the man on the top right corner of my Zoom. How did you guys come up with your list? David?
So for me, I initially wanted to go a little unconventional here, and go with teachers that I have loved, but aren't necessarily, your traditional, like, maybe first thought when you think of a teacher. And then when you, Neri, mentioned that the purpose of this was to kind of, give props to classroom teachers, I was like, kind of seems in bad taste to
Well,
do.
I didn't really say classroom teachers. I just my to the listener. This is to the listener. I said I don't really. We've had so many. We've already done an episode where we talk about coaches, and a lot of the coaches, high school coaches and sports coaches, like, it's very easy. Of course, they're educators and of course they are teachers as well. But we kind of gave them their time in the sun already. So I didn't want to just, you know what I mean? Because there was no crossover when we did the coaches episode. Nobody ever brought up, Mr. Hand, from. So I didn't
Right.
see it right. I'm like, let's just, let's give them a full episode. Let's give teachers a full episode without including coaches, because we gave coaches a full episode without including classroom teachers. But I didn't technically say classroom, but I get what you're saying.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I kind of took that as inspiration to say, you know what, let me give props to some of the school teachers in movies that I feel are positive influences, the ones that I kind of look to, aside from obviously some of the teachers who taught me, and teachers that I work with, where I say, like, that's a damn good teacher, and I would love to teach with them.
And just to give we're not gonna mention names of schools and stuff, but David, how long have you been teaching professionally? How long have you been teaching?
I am about to begin my 13th year as an educator. As a teacher, I was kind of.
You were a tutor before.
I tutored before, and I did like stuff here and there. But yeah, professionally, 13 years.
13 years. DeBona, how long have you been teaching? We'll get to Missy in a minute. I just wanted to know how long you've been teaching.
I have been teaching. This will be the beginning of my 12th year. I'm about to start my 12th year teaching.
Jesus Christ. All right. So Missy, how did you make your selection?
Movies that I like. That was my first criteria. So hang on, sorry guys. I in another life wanted to be a teacher. I think that has to be like the best profession, in my opinion, on the planet. It didn't work out for me, but salute to all the teachers. So the teachers that made my mountain are the ones that either A, I've had teachers like these and they changed my life, or B, the character in some way impacted me in that kind of teacher-student like paradigm. So it was pretty straightforward. I thought I wasn't asked to be on the panel. I was told to be on the panel, and I thought it was going to be really hard to come up with this list, and I had it done in like 10 minutes, and I haven't even looked at it in 2 days, because I was like, that's it. That's what I'm going to talk about. So it was pretty straightforward. Movies that I like, teachers that I either had or somehow like affected in that teacher-student kind of way.
All right. DeBona, how did you come up with your list?
So one of the main things I did when thinking about the people who are going to be on my list was I made sure the fact that them teaching was central to the storyline in the movie. There are plenty of characters that I really like who are teachers, but it's just kind of like a subset of who they are. Like, they're a teacher, but that's not what the movie's about. I tried to make sure that these were people who were actively teaching in the movie, and that's what it was. And I went for teachers that I felt like took people, it took the kids that they were teaching and made them understand something very special about themselves, or something very important about the world, or in one case, both of those things. people who had a deep impact on who they were teaching, not necessarily just a cool character who was also a teacher, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I don't know if I really just thought about movies that impacted me for the most part. There's like a couple in here that I wouldn't know. I wouldn't say exactly impacted me, but they were really good teachers in those movies. Other movies I thought about, like, this movie impacted me, and if they were a teacher in that movie that impacted me, I'm gonna put them on there. So just looking at my list now, I have like my number one was that like the only, like, it was the first thought that I had in my eye. I was like, this is a teacher movie right here, and I'm hoping that I know David, like 2 years ago when I first saw it, had told me that he hadn't seen it, and I was like, oh boy, you bugging.
And
All right,
you know what? I still haven't seen it, and I felt terrible for not having watched it.
You should. I bawled my eyes out, and I think it's a great pick. However, with that said, not all of these, like, I think that's a great caveat that DeBona had, as far as like they had to be the main thing with them in the classroom. I'd say most of mine are about that. Maybe 50% are not. I don't know. I'm trying. One of them is kind of iffy. With that said, to piggyback off what Missy said, yeah, I started going to school to be a teacher. Like, so when I graduated high school, my thought was, I'm going to be a teacher, and I'm going to teach at my old high school, because right, that's what we all want to do. Like, I'm going to teach at my old high school.
Not if you went to public school.
I enjoyed my high school. I did go to public school.
Well, your public school was better than my public school, so I understand that.
Well,
I went to public school, and I had a very good high school experience. I was not a cool guy. I was not a jock, but I definitely wasn't picked on either. I just had a cool high school experience, and I thought this would be cool to come back here and teach these kids. With that said, the comedy gods. I know the
How
knows
do I
that
reach
reference.
these kids?
and then the comedy gods were like, we're just gonna keep giving you work at the improv until you realize there's a different calling, and so that's what happened to me. But with that said, let's go ahead. Ooh, I didn't even realize I hadn't even opened this up yet. Sorry about that, guys. Let's see here.
You know what's interesting is that when I was in high school, I thought, I'm going to go out and get a real job. And then when I retire, maybe I'll teach at my alma mater, at my high school. So it was kind of like the reverse for me. And here I am.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
And then every time we try to get out, they try to
just suck you right back in.
All right, man. Let's get off on the number 4.
Switch the fourth pick.
Round 4.
I'm in no mood for your wives crap. Let's get it on.
All right. Number 4. David, hit me up, man. What do you got for your number 4, bro?
My number 4 is Mr. Vernon from The Breakfast Club. I think that his I don't care about children attitude is fantastic.
That's a fantastic
Is he a teacher?
pick.
I thought he was assistant principal. I thought he was an
He's
assistant
an
principal.
asshole.
He is an assistant principal, and he's not my pick because he's a fucking terrible educator.
Thank you. I was like, David, did we watch the same movie?
I just saw the movie a couple of days ago, and I was like, all right, fine. But I knew that's why I knew he was an assistant principal. And this is a good question.
Yeah.
This is a good question. Did any administrators make your list?
No administrator made my list. However, I do consider administrators educators. They're like teachers are on a very macro level educators, and administrators are on a macro level educators. So micro, macro. It's just they're influencing policy in affecting many more students.
I appreciate the fact that you use hand gestures to signify the difference between macro and micro. To me, because it's like, oh, okay, because like I'm that stupid that I'm like, oh, good, I didn't know what micro and macro meant. Thank God he signified
Micro machine.
Yeah, no, I get it. That's the joke. It's like he was explaining it to me.
I wasn't explaining it. It was just the Cuban in me has to speak with his hands. So I'm just gonna be doing this for the rest of the.
What's the
no,
you have something behind your ear?
My real pick is Remus Lupin from the Harry Potter Prisoner of Azkaban.
Table.
Okay.
Okay.
Ooh.
I'm gonna just put Lupin. Prisoner, right? That's the only one he really taught in.
Right.
Harry Potter Prisoner. All right, Missy. What you got for your number 4? Your number 4.
Okay. This one blurs the line a little bit. Technically, she is a teacher for the movie, just not in her other life. My number 4 pick is Dolores / Sister Mary Claren from Sister Act 1 and 2.
So
She's
can
a
I
good
just tell you?
teacher.
So can I just tell you? Can I just tell you? When you said Dolores, I was like, oh my God, she's gonna fucking say from Harry Potter. She's gonna say
Dolores
fucking,
Umbridge.
Dolores Umbridge.
Umbridge. I was like, she's going to go for it, and you did it. But you did it.
I haven't seen those movies because I haven't read the books, and I'm working on it. But I don't know what that means. But yes, that's
I legit thought you were gonna go Umbridge, and I was like, holy shit. He's gonna go for my troll before I go for it.
It would have been the teacher equivalent of his Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
Oh, then no.
but with a magical wand. So that would have been. So what was her name? Dolores what?
Well, her name is Dolores, but it's also Sister Mary Claren. So I don't know which one you want to go with, but she's both.
Mary Claren.
So, I think that this. Well, she's a teacher in the second one, actually. It just clicked in my brain. What she does for that music class, I mean, get out of here. She's a great music teacher. I haven't seen Mr. Holland's opus, but I would say she's better than him.
You've been hanging out with Neri an awful lot. I haven't seen this thing that's clearly a masterpiece, but I'm going to go ahead and say that this other thing is...
There are a lot of things that are supposed to be masterpieces that I don't like, and that's just, I'm broken. I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. And we can't blame it on Neri.
We're broken together, BFF. We're broken together.
And then I got to fix it, because I don't like
I know. Me and Missy, we were watching stuff that everybody's been raving about for a year. Like, let's finally watch it. And then we did. We're like, I don't give a fuck about this. You care about this? All right, let's get out.
Oh yeah. So
and we are ripcording motherfuckers too. Me and Missy, we pull the ripcord real quick. We're like, oof, we're episode 4 of what? 10? So what's going on with How I Met Your Mother? Like let's just fucking pull the ripcord.
That legitimately happened, and I don't know. I'm broken.
No regrets.
So anyway,
no regrets, man. All right, Sister Mary Clarence.
What she does for that music class is amazing. I think she doesn't have to go back to the school in the second movie, but she does because she's a good heart. And the way that she impacts them, I think, obviously she brings a more relatable aspect to the music class than any other nun/teacher would have to that school. And I just remember that when I was a kid and I watched that movie, it was really impactful to me because I was in a lot of music classes and I was in chorus and I did I was in shows and stuff like that. So I could relate to like that connection that you have when somebody sees something in you and like pushes you to go for it, you know, to dive into that talent. And yeah, and I also, fun fact, I was part of the talent show in my summer camp and I performed one of the songs. So it holds a special place in my heart. That's my number 4.
Hey man, one of her students went on to be in the Fugees, so you know what? I think she did a great fucking job.
That's right.
She did a great fucking job. So,
Plus,
she's also Lauryn Hill, but whatever.
We'll just keep that Sister Act 2 being a part of this show running joke alive. So
I love Sister Act 2.
I think
no regrets.
I think it's a fun pick. It's been a long time since I've seen those movies. Honestly, like I had forgotten she was even a teacher until you said her name. But I got nothing against the pick.
What is it? What's her what's Sister Act's 2 Rotten Tomato score, Neri? Because he's really mad about it. That's why I'm bringing it up.
I'm super upset about it. It's like 7% or something, 7 or 8%.
Yeah, there are Twilight movies. There are Twilight movies that have a higher score than Sister Act 2. He's
Back in
There
the
are
habit.
Sharknado movies. There are Sharknado movies that have a higher score. Like, do you understand how
Yes.
fucking like ridiculous
And
this
I
system is?
and
That's my go-to movie when somebody brings a Rotten Tomato scores. I'm like,
17%.
there you go, 7. That's what it is, 17%. I'm like 17%, and there's legitimately Sharknado movies. I think there's one Sharknado movie that's higher than that. Like, that's all it takes. I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, the fact that there's one Sharknado movie that's rated higher than a 0 is, bananas.
and
But whatever.
shout out to Jeff because as a direct result of being friends with Jeff, I've seen all the Sharknado movies and I can attest to the fact that Sister Act 2 is getting screwed because those movies were the worst thing I've ever sat through. And I was married once.
Shout out
okay?
to you said. I like the fact that you said shout out to Jeff because he's the one that made me watch all those movies, and you're still giving him a shout out. I think he's to blame. I don't think that's a credit. I think that's something.
Trying to be diplomatic, okay?
I think you should say like, "Oh, by the way, fuck you, Jeff, for making me watch all those movies." I think that was something along those lines,
I was
man.
trying to be diplomatic and you fucking ruined it. So
All right.
anyway, that's my number 4.
Sister Mary Clarence, I'm down with it. I like it. What do we got? The Bono, what do we got?
My number 4 is a teacher who did a lot for a group that didn't expect her to. That's just kind of how this genre of films goes. My number 4 is Erin Gruel, played by Hilary Swank in Freedom Riders.
What a great movie. Man.
Oh wow, you went with the Rich Cola of Dangerous Minds.
I did because
Mary!
No.
So here's the thing.
You're such an asshole.
I thought of it. Now I contemplated doing Dangerous Minds over Freedom Riders, but when it comes down to it, the classroom and the actual education in the room and using the writing aspect of that class was a more pivotal plot point than just being there for the kids, like in Dangerous Minds.
Did you just hear what you said? Did you just hear what you said?
In Freedom Riders, it was the curriculum and the things that she was doing as a teacher were more pivotal to the overall experience and the growth of the kids in the movie than
actually being there for the children.
She was there for the kids.
Teaching them karate.
Look, here's the thing. Hilary Swank, Erin Gruel, was there for the kids every bit as much as in Dangerous Minds, but the actual curriculum and forcing them to become writers was a vital part of the movie.
I'm with the bone on this.
What's the name of the movie?
It's called
Freedom Riders.
Writers. That's what it was.
Yes. It's the same. It's the same nuts and bolts movie as Dangerous Minds with an equally good, a better soundtrack, honestly. But she uses the writing aspects in that room to help these kids work through so much by making them keep diaries and do writing entries about the hardships of their life. At one point, there's a kid passing a note with something anti-Semitic in it, and it turns into this whole lesson about the Holocaust. There's a kid in the class who doesn't even know what the Holocaust is. And it becomes this whole thing about life experiences, and it's really good. And I was torn as to whether I was going to pick this or Dangerous Minds, but her actual teaching and curriculum and doing schoolwork was what put her into this spot for me. She's a woman who gives everything for her classroom. Her husband leaves her because she's so engrossed in making these kids better people. She's taking part-time jobs afterwards, and she's using the extra money to buy stuff for the kids in her room, to buy them books and to buy them materials, because that's not stuff her school is able to give to her. She does so much for these kids while making so many things relatable and forcing them to realize that just because they live in the same area, their life experiences are all very, very different. And I went into this movie because somebody forced me to watch it, fully expecting to not like it. I'm hot cold with Hilary Swank. I thought it was just going to be a schlock fest. And it ended up being Very, very good. I can see this as the type of movie that if this had come out earlier, when I originally went to college, I had planned on being a high school English teacher. And this is one of those things that would have lit that fire in me if it had come out before I had already made my switch to special ed where I am now. But it's a very inspirational movie. Hilary Swank does an amazing job. And as like the kids are basically all playing by unknowns, it's a very good movie. It's very emotional. She does an excellent job teaching. There are some wonderful lessons in it. So, yeah, I'm going with Aaron Gruel from Freedom Writers.
It's an awesome pick, man. And I love this movie.
I haven't seen it, but I want to buy it now. So
it's really good.
Oh, good. It'll be in the family.
I definitely, like I said, I definitely think it's a superior movie to Dangerous Minds.
I agree.
I feel like Dangerous Minds spoke more to the socioeconomic status of her class, whereas in Freedom Writers, from the trailer that I watched on silent, deals more with the actual impact of education, and both are opposite sides of the same coin. So they both work for their own in their own right. I would imagine.
Which one of them gave their students candy bars? So we have a clear winner, right? I mean, we have a clear winner. All right.
Neri, I made my list based on who had the best treasure chest and treats.
Correct. That's hilarious. My number 4. This is like the back-to-back episode of redemption for me, or however you want to say. I don't even know what word to use here. Maybe I should take a Freedom Writer class. My number 4 is Professor Snape from the Harry Potter series.
All right. I like the pick.
I legitimately love this dude. I loved him from the jump. Never thought he was evil. I didn't buy into that bullshit. And I had an argument with my wife who had seen all the movies. I recently watched every single one of those movies. In the last, like I watched them all with like 4 days, like 3.5 days. I watched all 8 movies, and I was doing a trivia, so I was like trying to write all these trivia questions, and then got swept up in it. I was like, oh, this is actually really good. Because when I watched them one at a time throughout the years, I was like, this shit sucks. I don't like this. However, I did like part 5 always. But watching all 8, I was like, oh, this is good. This is really good. But Professor Snape, in general, I love the way he always defended and protected Harry, even if it wasn't obvious to everybody at that time. I always felt, I'm like, he's protecting and defending this kid.
I don't understand how anyone who knows the entire story can't love and defend Snape. Like I am a total Snape apologizer. He's the fucking man.
I think he's fantastic. But I always made the argument of like, no, he's defending Harry. I didn't know why until I saw the final movie. But after you watch the final movie, you go, yeah, this is okay. That's a thing.
Yeah,
I don't want to say too much because Missy hasn't seen it. I don't want to give too many details, but I just do acknowledge the fact that I always defended Snape because I was like, you may not like his method, and you may not like the fact that he dresses in all black, but he
Johnny Cash dressed in all black and he was cool as shit. What are they talking about?
Yeah,
well,
look, I mean, based on, David's pick that I tabled, obviously I've got somebody else from Harry Potter, but this is another one. I was torn. I knew it was going to be between Snape and who I picked. And I think that Snape is the reason I didn't go with Snape, but the reason he's so good is because you're right. He's always there from the very beginning to the very end. And even though he's a prick, and he's always at war with somebody, and it comes across like he doesn't care about the kids. As you get into it, you always have the feeling that he's got the kids' best interests at heart. And so I can't be mad at the pick, man. I love. Plus, you can't go wrong with Alan Rickman when we're talking movies. But it's a stellar pick, man. Always.
Professor Snape from Harry Potter series. When I thought about it, I was like, to pick anybody else, there was nobody else who was that we saw in the classroom as much throughout the series than we did Snape. And even, again, the movies aren't necessarily about the teachers. Obviously, it's fucking titled Harry Potter, but the fact that he was a teacher in every one of the movies, with the exception of maybe the last one, but even the last one, the lesson that he taught, the lesson that you learned from him, you're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Well, so.
And that's the thing. Like the reason I ended up going with the other is because while he's a pivotal member of the whole school and he's very, very important to it, his in the classroom stuff isn't what made him so great. You know, when he was just potions teacher, it was like he was there and you kind of saw him. It was his stuff behind the scenes and when he was teaching lessons in study hall and after school and stuff like that he was so important.
Okay. You could teach them about werewolves. Guess that means fucking nothing to you. Whatever. All right. So our number 4s were Lupin from Harry Potter: Prisoner of Azkaban, Sister Mary Clarence from Sister Act 2, not Dangerous Minds chick from Freedom Riders,
Oh my
and
God.
Professor Snape from Harry Potter. Those are our number 4s. All right. And
Round 3.
3 is a magic number. Yes, it is.
all right, number 3. Dave, what do we got for number 3?
All right. My number 3 is Sharon Norbury from Mean Girls.
Okay.
Ooh,
Yeah.
interesting.
I like it.
I absolutely love this movie. It is one of my favorite comedies, and Miss Norbury is like the very definition of a good teacher. She cares. She cares about her students. She takes an active interest in their lives, in and out of the classroom. She's smart, and she knows how to teach the material too, and that is, even though we don't see her, obviously she's not the focus of the movie. It's more the social aspect of the students that's the focus of the movie. But when we do see her in the classroom, she knows how to teach. And so often I feel like when we have teachers that are really intelligent, they're more interested in showing us how smart they are than in teaching us effectively. And Miss Norbury does that. She teaches so effectively, and to the point where even when Katie wasn't paying attention in the class, she can still remember the lesson months later during a mathletes competition. And then the fact that she just pushes her students to accomplish everything that they possibly can. She's a good teacher. She's
She's not just a regular teacher. She's a cool teacher.
Right. That's a great way of putting it. And then on top of that, I think she's funny. Because
obviously it's Tina Fey.
It's Tina Fey, right? The interactions that they have with her outside of the classroom, I think, are hilarious. Right?
I'm a pusher, Caddy. I'm a pusher.
Right. Your grandma, your Nana and I have that same problem. You know, that's those sorts of comments that she just kind of lets go. They're very Liz Lemon. You know, you can kind of feel a little bit of Liz Lemon starting to germinate in her brain as she was creating Miss Norbury. And I love it. You know, it's definitely one of my favorite movies about schools, and she's my number 3.
I think that if you're a girl, like, even if you wanted to not even pay attention to Mean Girls, because it looks very, like, what's a very cliche looking, like, at least the advertising, the marketing for it was very cliche. But even if you wanted to, like, ignore, even if you wanted to go in there and hate that movie, like, you can't, because on 2 levels. First of all, if you're a girl watching that movie, it's a diary of being a woman. Like, that's just what it is. It's different fucking clothes later on in life, but it's the same thing. And number 2, I think that the element that the teachers bring into the story really added dimension to it that not a lot of high school movies or coming of age movies really have really take the time to implement. Breakfast Club is a magnificent movie, but they make the teacher or the educator an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
So like I think that it's a good way to flip it on the genre, like independently. And of course, like I'm a huge Tina Fey fan. Fucking love everything she's ever done. And yeah, I think that's like she's an amazing, like the teacher, the character is an amazing teacher. Yeah. And for a shitty subject, because I'm like all words, but so I don't care about math.
If she had been my math teacher, I would have loved math.
I would have failed, but I would have liked being there for sure. So
this is my what we do in the shadows is to Dave. This is my that a movie that everybody else likes, and I just think it's dog shit.
Wow, you don't just dislike it.
I don't think that movie's fun. I don't think that movie is funny at all.
Well,
and
please,
I was so
please don't put.
when I found out.
Don't put words in my mouth. I never said what we do in the shadows is dog shit.
I just meant the fact that you don't like it. I wasn't quoting you.
Just the one guy.
Giving my quote. Yeah, it was just the one thing. Jesus.
I laughed twice.
Okay, well, that's more than what I did at Mean Girls. I laughed more in this podcast than I did at Mean Girls. So, and we're at fucking 33 minutes. So, go figure that. And I'm a huge Tina Fey fan. And then when I found out Tina Fey wrote it, I was so disappointed. I was like, Tina Fey wrote that shit? So I'm a huge Tina Fey fan. Seeing all her, seeing the shows that she's on, and she's been on a couple, including the one on Netflix that got canceled after 2 seasons. That show was hilarious too. Yeah, I have her book, which again, I don't have many books. So the fact that I have her book shows you how much I like her. This movie's dog shit to me, and I don't think it's funny at all whatsoever. I don't remember even chuckling at this movie. So
is it dog shit again, because you don't think it's funny?
I wish no, at all. I don't think this movie's funny at all. So with that said, I want to reiterate the fact that I wish I did. This is much more like one of those things. Like we've talked about this when we talked about music. Like I wish I did like it. Like I wish I liked what's his name? Walk the Line. What's his name? What am I?
Oh, Johnny Cash.
Johnny Cash.
Oh, Johnny Cash. Like I wish I liked Johnny Cash's music, and I don't like Johnny Cash's music, but I wish I did. Like I don't. I just don't. Like I listen to it. I'm like, this does nothing for me, except
Missy,
for like 2 of the songs that
when
he
just said that
right.
about Johnny Cash.
You might as well be punching me in the gut over and over again. Like, what is happening?
I wish.
See, these are things that we've spoken about on the
He's such
podcast
an asshole.
before, so it's not
it's brand new information to me.
It's new to you,
but yeah. But again, I reiterate the fact, and this is forever lost in the stories when it gets told. Like Mary doesn't like I wish I did. I'm not. I just wish I just don't. Like there are things that me and Missy, watched earlier this week that we both wish we would have liked, but we fucking didn't.
Well, okay. What we're talking about
thing.
is The Mandalorian, and I haven't finished it, so maybe the tail end of the first season will make me.
Can you explain to them why we didn't?
If you're not into it halfway through, you're not gonna suddenly latch on.
Exactly it.
If you're not into it by episode 3.
Yeah, we literally were on episode 4 and we looked at each other and we're like, and she said it to me and I felt the same way. She goes, I don't really care about this. Do you? And I'm like, bro, thank God you said it because I don't give a fuck about this.
You're going to disrespect me, punch me in the gut like 3 times, and now you're throwing me under the bus too?
Again, I'm just being honest. This is things that I wish I liked, but I don't. I don't know what to tell you. I'm just giving you examples of things I wish I liked and I don't.
Okay,
Mean Girls is on that list.
I know I know that opinions are subjective. But so are your views on people who don't like certain things.
Wait. Can I just say that I'm still on the fence? I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying I'm on the fence. I would like to finish the first season.
Oh no, but you and I said the same thing about Mandalorian. I literally said the same, and I had this full conversation with Will Watkins, a friend of ours, and I was like, I didn't say I didn't like it. I just said I was literally watching it, going like, I wonder what Barney's doing right now on How I Met Your Mother. Like, that was my reaction to it. I'm like, I was like, what's that, squirrel? Like, again, I didn't say I didn't like it. I just said I didn't really care for it.
The Mean Girls.
Not the same as not liking something. So, with that said, DeBono, what is your, I'm sorry, Missy, what is your number 3?
Oh, right. Let me just, my number 3 is Miss Honey from Matilda. So, what? Nobody's seen Matilda in this room?
No.
Actually, I've
saw
seen
mine.
Matilda, to the point of nausea.
Me too.
My cousins were really into this movie, and
Okay.
when it first came out, and so it drove me insane. So I have nothing but bad memories of me trying to say, "But can we watch Star Wars? But can we watch
Poor
Indiana
Misty.
Jones? But can we watch
Poor
any?"
Misty, she's just getting gut punched over and over.
So-
Bad night, man.
I'll tell you, if I had seen the movie Matilda, there's a very good chance she would make my list. And if we were doing literary teachers, then Miss Honey would be on my list. I've just never seen Matilda. I've read it multiple times, so I'm very familiar with Miss Honey, but I've never seen the movie, so I didn't put her on my list.
So
I just found out Matilda was a book. Right now, when the Bona just said it.
okay.
That's
So
just
I was-
assume
this-
it's always a book.
this movie came out in 96. So technically I was too old to really like this movie or want to watch this movie, but I may or may not have snuck into the movies that day, and that was the first tour I ran into, and I'm glad it was. Miss Honey is like the best teacher. First of all, Matilda was a character that was super relatable to me, even at 13, even though she was like, I don't know, 6 or 7 in the movie. I think 8. I'm not sure. I haven't seen it in a while. But she's like a kid that's in her own, creates her own little bubble and from a very shitty kind of home life. And her way of dealing with that is by diving head first into the library and books and stuff like that. That was super fucking relatable to me. But then having a teacher in your life, like this is what goes back to what I was saying in the beginning, where it's like I could see a teacher that I had up to that point that had that kind of impact in me. That kind of sees you're kind of a weird kid, but the teacher sees like why you're a weird kid. I don't know if I'm making myself, if it makes sense.
No.
But and then kind of gravitates to make sure that she encourages that in you, even though the rest of the scene is more militant, more like not as fun as it is to indulge in the stuff that you like when you're a kid, because that makes you weird. So it's an even smaller bubble. She's like a great character. She's a great teacher, and then she ends up adopting Matilda, which is like would have been great for some people. Oh my god.
24 years, Neri.
Well, you know what? We talked about Harry Potter. I didn't fucking spoil shit for her. But no, all right, don't give me the same respect. I get it. I see what it is.
You
Fine.
hadn't even confirmed that you had seen it or not.
Yeah, no, Miss Honey is such a great pick in that fact that not only does she embrace the fact that Matilda's different and weird, but she does everything she can to push Matilda even further. She's one of those great teachers who recognizes that a kid can do more and pushes them to reach their fullest potential, and not like the street kid who like doesn't try and it turns out they're a genius. Like, this is a girl that everybody knows is real smart. She's like, yeah, but also she has telekinesis, so I should figure that out, and I should figure out how to push that. Like, she gets that her potential lies way beyond just essentially her photographic memory of anything she's ever read, and she pushes her to establish everything that she's capable of.
This is the same little girl from
Mrs. Doubtfire.
Mrs. Doubtfire, right.
Yeah, but I think this was after. Yeah, so that's my number 3 pick.
Yeah, like I said, there's a very good possibility, because my wife brought her up, and the very first thing I said was, I can't put her on my list. I've never actually seen Matilda, but
It's such a sweet movie. I would encourage watching it with your kids. I played it for one of my little cousins, and she liked it so much that I had a similar experience to what Dave did, which was I babysat for her I babysat with her for a weekend, and we literally only watched this movie. Like, it would finish and she would start it again.
Don't Danny DeVito and Rhea Perlman play her POS parents?
So good. It's such a good. And
I do remember that. Well, he's a car salesman, right?
Yeah, but like he's like a shifty, like used car salesman. Like, when you use it as a negative term, when you use the term used car salesman as a negative term, you're talking about
this character. And there's such crap.
Daniel, I gotta tell you something, Daniel. Here in Miami, we don't say car salesman in a positive way. It doesn't matter whether you're a fucking Ferrari car salesman, or it doesn't matter what.
There are drug dealers in the streets who have like way more better report than car dealers.
Yeah, I've met drug dealers. And I'm like, no, he's not a bad guy, bro. He's just in a bad place in life. I've never met a car dealer. I've never met a car dealer who's like, come on, bro, give him a fucking chance.
My hetero life mate sells cars, so I gotta, I'm very familiar with at least one really good one.
So I think the other thing that I mean, now as an adult watching it, I was like, that's not how you're supposed to do that. But at the end, well, I don't want to spoil it because then I'm gonna get shit for it. So never mind. But it's a good movie. You should watch it.
But I do
adopted, so
I do want to say,
Mr.
Missy,
Crunchball,
that my opinion of the movie is neither
It's based on trauma,
here
not because
nor
it's
there.
a bad movie.
That trauma is the experience with the movie, my relationship with the movie, not the movie itself. I haven't seen it in years, so I mean, it could be amazing. I just, at this point, I've blocked so much of it out.
It's a really
So
sweet movie.
I'm not knocking the pick. I remember liking the movie the first 5 or 6 times I saw it.
I had a similar experience. Like the exact same thing happened when I was babysitting Amelia for a weekend. Like it would finish, and I was like, "What about like cartoons or like that Playhouse?" And she's like, "No, I want to keep watching Matilda." So for the longest time, I had a huge aversion to the movie, but it still holds like such a special place in my heart because it's such a sweet movie. And Miss Honey is like the best teacher.
Who plays Miss Honey?
I think her name is Pam Ferris. If I'm not mistaken. Let me double check.
All right.
No,
Debona, what do you got for number 3?
My number 3 pick is a gentleman who does not start the movie as a teacher, has no intentions of actually being a real teacher and sticking with it, but ends up being a casebook example of the fact that if there's something you just absolutely love, then you're going to become great at teaching it. My number 3 is Dewey Finn from School of Rock.
I figured this was it.
I thought me and you had the same number 3, and I was like, here we go.
No. Dewey Finn from School of Rock is played by Jack Black. He's a guy who gets kicked out of his own band for showboating, and they just don't like the way that he is. So he gets kicked out of his band. He's just desperately trying to make money so his roommate doesn't kick him out. And he takes a sub job that's supposed to go to his roommate, pretending to be his roommate. He's pretending, and so he goes to this uppity private school, and he's supposed to be teaching a regular curriculum, realizes that these kids have insane musical talent, turns them into a rock band. And so what starts off as a very selfish initiative, which is I'm going to use these kids to win Battle of the Bands, he realizes these kids don't know anything about rock music. They know classical and maybe a little bit of this, but anything outside of that, they've got no knowledge of. And he ends up awakening in these kids that not only are they good musicians because they're forced to do it, but it's because they love music and they love all music. And one of my favorite scenes in School of Rock, there's a scene where he's got a chalkboard with just this massive web diagram of like rock bands. And then there's like a chunk that spins off over here and it's punk rock. And he's got a bunch of bands. And then there's metal. And he's just got all these bands up there. And he teaches these kids to play rock instruments and be great at them, but also teaches them the history of it. He gives them homework where they've got to go home and like he gives the kid who's going to be playing drums for him, he gives him a Rush CD, and he's like, "This is Neil Peart. You need to be listening to this." And he gives the Asian kid who's playing keyboards, he gives him, I think it's a Yes CD, and he's like, "This is what you need to listen to. This is keyboards at its finest." And he awakens these kids to this whole world of music that they didn't know. And so on the surface, you're like, man, this guy wasn't even really a teacher, but what sticks out about Dewey Finn is the fact that he's so passionate about it. But look, spoiler alert, whatever. By the end of the movie, obviously he gets fired from being a sub when they realize that he's not Mr. Schneebly. But he opens his own after-school music program, and he legitimately becomes a rock music teacher. And these kids end up loving him to where, they take an illegal field trip to go get him and be part of the band. And he eventually turns over the reins and complete control to these kids. And he lets them use what he taught them. And it becomes their band where he's in the background, which is never what he wanted. He got kicked out of his band for showboat. and the growth of him as a person because he became a teacher, while also the growth of the kids in what he teaches them ends up making him just an absolutely wonderful character. It's a very funny movie. It's very touching. The kids all do a great job. I love this movie. And so, yeah, I Dewey Finn from School of Rock, man.
I still haven't seen the movie, so you sold me on watching the movie.
It's a great movie, man.
It's so good, dude.
I've never seen it either.
And like I said, he starts off just pretending to be his roommate to make some sub money and finds out how much this private school makes and shows up the first day hungover, and he just keeps telling them they're not going to do anything. But he ends up just teaching them just strictly rock music curriculum, and they have a blast with it, and it's really good.
One of the things that I really like about Jack Black in this role in particular is he really showcases how passion is more important than anything in teaching.
That's exactly it.
It doesn't, at the end of the day, you can have all the different strategies that you want. You can, be an expert on like Bloom's taxonomy and, higher order thinking questions and all this sort of stuff. But what matters is your passion. Yep. Students know when you're coming into the room and you're bullshit. At the end of the day, they're not going to trust you.
And they eat him alive at the beginning of the movie because they know.
Right. But as soon as he starts turning on that passion, right, he finds what it is that he likes and he latches onto that. And they see that in them and they respect that in him.
And there's also just so much, and I mean, and this, I know there's a lot of movies where he does that, where just Jack Black, this could be said about him, but there's so much of just Jack Black that pours through Dewey Finn that you can tell he's so in on this role because this is something that in real life, just like how when a teacher is passionate about what they're teaching, you can tell that rock music is something that Jack Black is passionate about, so he's all in on this role. Yeah, highly recommend it. One of Miranda Cosgrove's first roles, if not her first. I mean, just a great movie.
I've always wanted to see it, and I could have seen it in the 2 days that I got notice about being on the panel, but I feel like it would have been cheating if I watched it now because I feel like my list wouldn't have been honest if I just binged stuff that I should have seen anyway. But
it's on HBO right now. If you haven't seen it and you got a free hour and a half.
Cool. I got lots of free hours and a half.
All right. My number 3, I just made an audible right now. And I got inspired by how you guys talked about, because my number 3, I'm sorry. No, I didn't. I made an audible to my number 2, not my number 3. Ugh, all right. My bad. All right. So my number 3 is also a teacher who didn't want to be a teacher, wasn't planning on being a teacher. And he was kind of forced into it, kind of just, by happenstance, was a teacher, became a teacher. And then he also, by applying himself, saw what his potential could be. And he really fell in love with the profession when he put effort into it. So I thought me and Devona had the same number 3. My number 3 is Detective John Kimball from Kindergarten Cop.
Tabled.
Okay, there we go. I really thought about it. I was like, I know at least one guy's going to have it, probably 2. So,
you know what's funny though? When Devona was talking, not once did John Kimball cross my mind. I was certain you were talking about Dewey.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I haven't seen School of Rock, so that description to me, I was like,
okay.
Yeah.
No, but you're right. It fits that description.
Check.
I was like, So, all right. I messed up. I wrote down, and all right. Because I made an audible to my number 2, and now my number 3, and now it's all fucked up. All right, here we go.
Just draw little arrows.
2.
Dose, the sequel to Uno.
All right, number 2, David, what do we got for number 2?
We can talk about him now, John Kimball.
Detective John Kimball, sir. Detective
Yeah.
John Kimball. Yeah, all right.
But he's Mr. Kimball to the kids, right?
To the kids, he's no, he's not Kimball at all.
No, he uses an undercover name, right?
Yeah, I can't remember what
right.
the undercover name is now.
No. Mr. Kimball, I have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
his
is
name,
it?
dude.
He's
That's
told.
his name. Yeah.
And you know what? I saw this movie again just like maybe a month ago, and I can't believe I forgot that.
Yeah, it's definitely Kimball. This was definitely before the age of the internet, where parents,
yeah.
like, if you made this movie nowadays, you would have to change the character's name for the teacher, because any parent worth their fucking salt would just Google, there's a 7-foot fucking kindergarten teacher. Let me just Google this motherfucker real quick, and it would be like, oh, he's a detective in Oregon. So, yeah,
So here you go. Just funny addendum to that before you guys get into it. So there's a thing that we have to send home at the beginning of the year where it gives parents information on how to look up our credentials. And I one time got an email from the State Department informing me that I'm one of the most researched ones because of the fact that I teach kindergarten and pre-K. And so apparently and I'm a dude, and so
Right.
it throws parents off, and so apparently there have been quite a few times where parents have gone and made sure my credentials are
Funny.
Yeah.
That's
They're gonna,
hilarious.
and that's Alabama. What do you think is gonna happen with the rest of the fucking? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But it makes perfect sense. Imagine Arnold Schwarzenegger is fucking teaching kindergarten, and imagine that. Like, he just comes and teaches your 5-year-old. You're gonna be like,
Yeah.
I have a question, sir.
People are weirded out, man. They like I said, people get that letter that's like, hey, I'm Mr. D. I'm going to be your kid's kindergarten teacher. Like, do what now?
They're like, didn't we just see you take a lot of hot food into your mouth? Didn't we just see that on YouTube? All right. So go ahead, talk about it, Dave.
So this is one of the earliest Schwarzenegger movies that I saw, and kind of helped solidify him as one of my favorite actors. So this was always going to be on my mountain. But on top of that, kind of in the same way that Jack Black does in School of Rock, he obviously doesn't start out as a school teacher. He's a detective, right? And a badass one at that, right? You see him like fucking kick down doors and go into a drug den, and like he is. In fact, like, watching it again recently, he reminded me physically how he looks as like the strung out cop in End of Days. Like, he's just like at the end of his rope, that sort of guy. And then he keeps it together throughout the whole movie as a teacher, and he really comes to care for these kids. And you see how from his own way there's education going on there. It doesn't always have to be a by the book sort of education. You don't have to know all of the tricks of the trade, right? He's flying by the seat of his pants, but it's working, right? When he lets himself come out, when he stops trying to be the teacher that he thinks he needs to be and starts being himself in the classroom, that's when he starts to flourish, which is the same thing that happens in School of Rock. And I think that's true in real life. I think I've had the most success in the classroom when I'm real with my students. When discussion on difficult topics comes up, I don't try to shy away from it. I try to engage, and I don't make it about what I believe. I'm just the arbitrator there. I'm the moderator there to kind of facilitate their conversation and let them figure out what's going on. And that's something that I think he does really well in that movie. I don't know if Arnold had great teachers when he was growing up, or if that's something he even wanted to be. I know that
His father was a teacher, his sister's a teacher, his grandfather was a teacher, so he comes from a family of teachers.
Oh, does he?
No, that's a fucking line from the movie, buddy. Get the fuck, man. Jesus Christ, right?
I was
literal
gonna
line
say
from the movie, dude. Holy shit. Jesus, man. No, know. His grandfather was a Nazi. I don't know. That's fucking, the fuck, man.
So
Also, can I just tell you one of the fucking funniest things? So like, I think it was last year, if I'm not mistaken, Dave. You'll correct me if I'm wrong. Last year, Dave was like, I'm gonna introduce Kindergarten Cop to my son, right? And his son at that point was like 5, 6, whatever, however old he was. And I'm like, oh, I love that movie, right? I'm like, I love that movie. And like 20 minutes later, he texts us. He goes, "Hey, I forgot how different this movie was for the first 20 minutes of the movie." I was like, "Yeah, man. I was gonna say something, but I didn't want to be that dude who's questioning another dude's parenting, you know." But he was like, I forgot that there was a murder, there was a hooker, there was a drug deal gone bad, with all this shit."
I had not seen that movie in like 15 years. Totally forgotten about the first 20, 30 minutes of that movie. But I put it on for.
There's a drug overdose.
He was maybe 4, maybe had just turned 5 when I put it on for him, and so that did not go over well. But I put it on for him again recently, because he's really gotten into Schwarzenegger now. And I've found like
You're doing good work, buddy. You're doing good work.
Yeah, I've put on the few like PG and PG-13 movies that Schwarzenegger has, fast forwarding through like some questionable parts, and he really likes.
There's some movies that are safe for him. I mean, there's some movies that he could watch. I mean, End of Days, you could watch that.
Oh yeah. Eraser. Yeah.
Eraser. Yeah.
Running Man is probably the safest of them all. I think.
Yeah.
Has he seen Terminator?
Actually, he has seen Terminator too.
That's why I didn't bring that one up. I was like, I'm not talking about the one he's actually seen.
I'm not supposed to bring that up, but yeah, he saw Terminator 2. Fuck, listen, I saw Terminator 2 when I was 5 years old. He's 6 now. I covered his eyes over certain parts. I fast forwarded through others, and it was fine.
Did you cover his eyes when he was naked?
Actually, you don't really see Arnold full frontal in that one.
Yeah, you just see his butt. You see it's not even his butt. It's a side butt. It's a side butt.
It was a joke, but
good
side butt though. It's good side butt.
Oh, the best.
That's fantastic.
It all started. It all started because it started because
I think Arnold Schwarzenegger squats. You think he squats?
On my
birthday. You think he has a home gym?
On my birthday, we were watching True Lies, and he was taking a nap, and he woke up in the last, like it was when they were in the Florida Keys. He woke up.
Oh, okay.
And so at that point, I'm not.
Did he sleep through the seduction scene?
Yes. Yeah. So he was in his room. You know, we were like, out watching it. So at that point, it's like, listen, man, an atomic bomb's gonna fucking go off. A Harrier jet's gonna take off. There's gonna be like 1 million dead people. I'm not stopping this now. All right. Yeah. So he kind of just sat there, and Steph didn't say a fucking word. And I was like, okay.
Yet.
So
she hasn't said a word yet.
So when that was over, I turned to her and I said, well, seeing as though he's seen the bloodiest part of this movie, why not Terminator 2? And she was like, fine.
There you go.
Must have been drunk.
John Kimball. That doesn't sound like Steph. John Kimball is your number 2, and it's my number 3. Missy?
Okay. So this is one of Julia Roberts' lesser known roles. And by lesser, I mean I'm probably the only one that cares.
I know where you're going, I think.
Yeah.
Is it Mona Lisa Smile?
Is it Mona Lisa Smile?
It is Mona Lisa Smile.
Okay.
Can I explain why before I get roasted?
Tell me her name. I'm not gonna. I haven't seen this movie. I can't roast you on this.
Yeah, I've never seen this movie.
So
you've never seen Mona? Okay, Mona Lisa Smile is a great movie. The teacher's name is Catherine Ann Watson. And
Catherine Watson?
Yes.
Okay.
Her middle name is Ann, but whatever. So this is a teacher.
Watson it is.
This sounds like a movie for broads.
It might be. It might be.
Wait. Here's how to tell. Here's how to tell if it's a movie for broads. Missy, do you own this movie?
No, not yet, bitch. But I'm looking for it on iTunes. So that's besides the point.
I just want to be
Can I
clear.
watch-
I just want to be clear. That was a joke. That's why I used my 1930s gangster voice and said the word broad.
Well, interestingly enough, this movie takes place in the 1950s, so you're not
okay.
completely. So this is a this movie takes place in 1953. She goes to teach art history in UCLA, and I think at that time, if I'm not mistaken, I haven't seen this movie in a while, but I think boys and girls did not go to school together at the time. So it's a class of all girls taking art history, and it really the reason why she's such an impactful teacher to me in this movie is because what she does for her classmate or for her students is make them consider their push their imagination of what their potential is further than what the standard is at that time, right? So most women at that time, most if not all women at that time, went to school to find a husband, and then they did the wife and the mom thing, which is fine. But her character is more of an independent feminist kind of archetype, and through art history, she pushes them to, like I said, to try and consider other ways of thinking, other ways of considering things, other ways of behaving with each other. And for me, I have a teacher that was exactly like this for me. She taught English, but it was that kind of teacher who broke the mold up in as far as what you thought a teacher was. And it's a great movie. It speaks to a lot of the bougie kind of upper white waspy socioeconomic status of the 50s, and has a great cast, and they're all each one of her students, they play such different characters, and it kind of I'm sure they did it on purpose, but they represent a different aspect of the argument that's being presented by this non-traditional teacher that comes in to teach them art history in 1953. So Mona Lisa Smile is my number 2.
Just if the two of you decide that you want to watch it, it's a pretty good movie. Like, it's not just strictly it is a chick flick, but it's one of the better ones. I can say that.
But here's the thing: I love chick flick. I'm the one that, for lack of a better word, forced Missy to watch Sleepless in Seattle. She had never seen it, and I'm like,
oh man, so good.
So again, I love chick flick. I like the broad. You know what I'm saying? I like broad.
Like it, man. They do a good job with the story in Mona Lisa Smile. Like, the way that everything progresses, I enjoyed the movie way more than I thought it would.
Yeah.
Listen, in 2003, I was 20 and I needed this movie because I was having my own little existential crisis. And as in high school, I had a teacher that was very similar to her, and it just so I do own this movie.
I know you did. I know. I fucking saw. I've seen it in your fucking family share.
Whatever.
I just didn't want to be
That's
that
not
guy
the
to be
point of
like, yeah, you fucking own it. Well, whatever. Okay.
Whatever. That's besides the point. It's a great movie. It's a great teacher. She's my number 2. That's it. Caso cerrado.
All right. All right. Right on, man. DeBono, what do you got for your number 2?
For my number 2, we can talk about him now. It's mine and David's pick from the Harry Potter series, and it's Remus Lupin. The reason I ended up going with Remus Lupin, when you reach Prisoner of Azkaban and you're on your 3rd Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, Remus Lupin, and that movie in particular, but Remus Lupin is the first Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, and the first teacher who makes them face the fact that there are things in this world that are terrible, and you are strong enough to defeat them. And when he immediately gets into the lessons with what are they called? Boggins or whatever, the weird thing that pops out of the treasure chest.
The Boggarts.
Boggarts, yeah. It pops out of the treasure chest, and it's like it's your worst nightmare. And and he gets into that. That's like day 1. Like, in this chest is a thing that will read your mind. It knows what your worst nightmare is. And the world is a dark and scary place, and I am going to make you ready for that. And to this point in the movies, everybody, and past this point, everybody's still in denial about, whether or not Voldemort's actually back. And I know I'm trying not to say too much.
I can leave and come back.
No, it's fine. But so so they have defense against the dark arts, but it's been nothing until this point. It's been little pansy lessons. And when Remus takes over, like I said, he's a guy who says there is evil in the world. There are things that want to hurt you, and my job is to keep you alive. And Remus makes them realize that they can be brave and they can face their worst fears, and that there's a big scary world out there, but that they are capable of tackling it. And I guess specifically from Prisoner of Azkaban, but because then for the rest of the movies, he's not technically a teacher or whatever, but he continues to give his all in these movies and be a very important part of the children's life. But he was actually the reason that I ended up really getting into Harry Potter. I had read the first book when it first came out, left it alone. There were 3 movies out by the time I ended up watching them, and it was Remus's character who his being in the movie was, and that particular movie was a tonal shift in the way things were happening. And he's a very vital part of the kids realizing that there's a tonal shift in their world and that they're getting older. And he taught them very important lessons that would go on to be things that would save all of their lives. So, yeah, but Dave's got him too.
Yeah.
Also, Snape taught him about werewolves, which saved their life right in that movie. Werewolves, not apparently a big threat, but whatever.
So, I don't want to kind of expand on anything you said because you kind of covered a lot of what I love about Lupin. But what I will say is that something I've always loved about Lupin, and it's something I try to take with me into my own professional life, is the way that you see Lupin one-on-one with Harry. Like, you see that to him, teaching is not just a paycheck. Teaching is not just his job. Teaching is his life. And he will take time out from whatever it is that he is doing. And once you get to know who Lupin is, he is clearly dealing with a lot of his own stuff. And he takes time away from everything to be there for Harry. Harry is taking care of Harry and teaching Harry trumps everything else. And I think for really good teachers, that's the way that we should be with our students, where when a student comes to you and says, hey, I need some extra help with this, it's really easy to tell them, okay, well, ask this guy or ask the other guy, and there is something to be said for like peer teaching. But to take time out of your day at the end of the day when someone comes in and says, hey, could you help me out with this thing? And I know a lot of teachers that do it. They'll take the time and they'll say, hey, sit here with me and we'll go over, I don't know, dangling participles or whatever it is. Something boring as hell that you've just spent the entire day teaching. You're going to sit there and you're going to teach it again, and you're going to find the 45th way, which that's the way that's going to work to teach that kid. And that's what Lupin does. And that's what I think sets him apart from every other teacher in Harry Potter. Because I thought about it. There are a lot of really good teachers in Harry Potter. McGonagall's a great teacher. Snape is a fantastic teacher. I love that. But to me, he will always be the best educator at that school.
All right. So
And we can find out why.
That's your number 2. It is Lupin.
And I did it sans spoilers.
Hey.
So my number 2 is the audible that I made. I was gonna use somebody else in a movie that I think is far superior than the one I'm about to mention. However, I got inspired by the conversations that we've had in this podcast, specifically from the Bona, when he talked about the actual showing of the teacher teaching and what the teacher does for the student in the classroom. So with that said, I took my number two, which again, far superior film, and I made an audible, and my number two is Scott Voss from Here Comes the Boom.
Oh
It,
man, I
I've never seen
short
this.
like that. No, that's one that I just barely missed. Just barely didn't put "Here Comes the Boom" on my list.
I love this movie for multiple reasons. First of all, Kevin James and I are brothers separated at birth, and I love everything that Kevin James has done. I'm a fan of Kevin James. And even though I don't think that Paul Blart is a good movie, I still liked it. Uh, but I acknowledge that it's not a good movie, but I still enjoyed it. And I'm pretty sure I own both movies. With that said, uh, this this teacher, whole movie is based upon this teacher who used to be great. At one point, we learn really quickly throughout the movie that he at one point won Teacher of the Year, but his passion and his giving a fuck has just left, and he's just one of those students now. He's just one of those teachers that literally puts his feet up on his table, is late to work on a consistent basis, puts his feet up on the table, reads a newspaper, and lets the kids do whatever. It's a free period for the kids. And due to outstanding circumstances with Harry Winkler, which some people may know from other shows like on Showtime. I don't know. I don't know what else he's done. Has he done anything else, Henry Winkler? I don't know. That's the thing. And Henry Winkler, being old as fuck, finds out that he's gonna be a kid. He's gonna be a father again at a super old age. At the same time, they find out they're gonna cut the music program. Kevin James is not a music teacher in this movie, but because of that, he decides to start taking on extra jobs to help fund the music program, and that job includes being an MMA cage fighter. But along the way, he finds his passion again, and along the way, he finds his passion for teaching. So he becomes that animated guy again. He becomes that guy teaching the students. I believe it's a science class where he starts teaching them what happens when motion gets in, when an object gets into motion. He starts doing all this, and then jumps on top of the table, and his passion for teaching comes back. And I loved to watch the movie for multiple reasons, but just to focusing on the teacher aspect, to see somebody do whatever it takes to make his students come alive. And I thought it was brilliantly done and fantastic. Again, love the movie, great movie. It's when I go through my honorable mentions, I'll tell you which movie was originally my number two, and it's a fucking far superior movie than this. But I really,
Can't
really
wait.
enjoy Here Comes the Boom.
Yeah, and
I really enjoy Here Comes the Boom.
and being a teacher, like I know so many people who are boss at the beginning of that movie, and so it's nice to see that and watch and be like, well, maybe there's hope for everybody. Like maybe if you got into this for the right reasons, maybe you can find those reasons again. And you're right, that's what ends up making him great in the movie. Like as you watch him remember why he became a teacher, and you watch him find the fact that he loves this. And man, like I said, just like that was one of my last ones that I decided not to put on my list.
That's a great, and it's in a family show, but it's fantastic, dude. I love that. I love that film. So that's it. That's my number two. Is Scott Voss from Here Comes the Boom. All right. And honorable mentions.
All right, I've got the
Geekmore
page honorable mentions. We've got Jemiah Leonard, who's got number 4, Dewey Finn. Number 3, Professor X. Number 2, John Keating. Honorable mentions to Catherine Watson. And he says this is a hard list. And number 1, Major Benson Payne, which I think is a fantastic
I didn't think about him being a teacher. I thought about him being a drill sergeant, but he is a teacher.
I mean, in a way, right?
It's like an ROTC or whatever,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Brian Conran has number 4, Veronica Vaughn. From Billy Madison. Number 3, Dewey Finn. Number 2, Professor X. Number 1, John Keating. Honorable mentions to Gandalf. I think that might be stretching it a bit, but I can't say that I don't like the pick. Let's go to Neri's page. And Neri, here we are. Many more comments here. Natalie Wagner said, is it Wagner or Wagner? Wagner, okay. John Keating and Minerva McGonagall. So we got two. We got 2 out of the 4. John Evans has John Keating, Scott Voss, John Kimball, Mr. Hand. Will Watkins has Splinter, Professor X, Danny DeVito in Renaissance Man, and Jamie Escalante in Stand and Deliver.
Neri taking him to task on whether or not was a teacher. Cracked me up.
That was a great back and forth there. Jody Pissark says, I know he was the principal, but honorable mention to Joe Clark and Lean on Me. Michael Hunger says Professor Henry Jones Jr. So I just want to take a moment to comment because clearly Indiana Jones is my favorite character of all time, right, from any movie. But we see all of 2 minutes of him, like cumulatively.
Right.
Throughout
the movies. An awful teacher. And
I will agree, he's really fucking boring.
Not only that, but he fucking lies to them. He's like, X never marks the spot. Bitch, you fucking lie. Why you lying, dog? You a bad teacher, bro. Like the very next scene is literally him marking the X marks the spot when he's telling his students that X never marks the spot. I'm like,
also
you a bad
probably
teacher,
a bad archaeologist.
The only worst archaeologist is the chick from Suicide Squad. What's this? A priceless heirloom? Let's break it. Like, what the fuck? What?
Oh man, yeah. So
at least Indy was like, let's preserve it in my pocket so I could sell it and get fucking money.
Right.
Like at least there's that. But Jesus.
Oh boy. So I love the pick. I just I couldn't put it on my mind. John Keating, Miss Honey, Dewey Finn. Dave Lamont says Mr. Hand better be in there. So thank you, Mr. Lamont, for playing. Jeanette Gonzalez Rojas says Mr. Keating and Miss Honey from Matilda. So again, we have half a mountain. But thanks for playing, Jeanette. It's good to see you commenting there. So what do we got?
Honorable mentions. What do you got, Dave?
What do I got? Okay, so I took the non-traditional ones that I was going to put on my mountain and made them my honorable mentions. So we've got Yoda, Mr. Miyagi, Charles Xavier, and Splinter.
So you got 3 coaches and senseis, right? That's 3 sport. You got 3.
Listen, man. If you've read anything about Bruce Lee, you know that martial arts, fighting, it's not just physical. Right?
Neri, did you just admit that Yoda's a coach?
No. I said 3. I said 3, not 4. 3.
Okay.
3. And I would say that Yoda's much more of a teacher than he is a coach. That I would give.
Well,
at least there's that one scene. There's that one scene where he's teaching the young, before he can get massacred.
I was gonna say you actually see Yoda teaching in the prequels. He is in charge of teaching the younglings. That's his only job, on top of being on the Jedi Council, the head of the Jedi Council. Like that is his job. He is a teacher, and I would say he definitely teaches Luke.
So the fact that they get massacred is on him, then, right?
He brought balance to the force. He brought balance.
Lawyered.
No.
Lawyered.
Well, I don't know. Can't Yoda, like Splinter is a sensei? Isn't that a word for teacher?
Yeah, it's master, technically. But it's master in the same way that like your a lot of these like fancy prep schools do that as well. So I would think of any one of these guys as beyond coaching. Because
again, we talked about this earlier. Coaching bleeds into teaching, but it doesn't go the other way around. And since we already had a coaching episode, that's why coaches can absolutely be educators. However, we already did a coaching episode, so
right.
I'm not debating the fact that these are educators as well.
I would relent on Mr. Miyagi. However, I do think Yoda, Charles Xavier, and Splinter are definitely teachers.
Well, Charles Xavier is a legit. I mean, his title is professor. So he's a legitimate teacher, and we've seen him in the movies teaching.
Yep.
actual classroom teaching.
Right.
So Miss Professor X is yeah. I think the only iffy one is Yoda, only because it's not again just that one scene that we see from him. But there's an argument to be made. I don't think that's a
And this is why I kept them as my honorable mentions. You know.
yeah. But Mr. Miyagi's a better coach. All right, so Missy, what do we got?
I only had 3. Mr. Hall from Clueless, Mr. Griffith from Easy A, and Mercedes Tano from Larry Crown.
Oh, my God, that's a good pick.
Okay. Debona, what do you got?
I've got 2. Terrence Fletcher from Whiplash. He definitely he's super unorthodox, and yeah, he smacks some kids around, but he definitely gets the most out of Miles Teller. I can't remember his name from the movie, but
He also gets students to kill themselves. But whatever. I mean, yeah, sure, if you want to.
Spoiler.
So Terrence Fletcher from Whiplash and Mr. Newman from Wet Hot American Summer, played by David Hyde Pierce.
Nice. What a great pick.
That's a good one. That could have been my 4th.
So yeah, those are the only 2 honorable mentions I have.
Hold on a second. My honorable mentions are Miss Vaughn, Mrs. Vaughn, from Happy Gilmore. Then this was going to be my number 2.
What was the line? Like, do you want some milk? Look at all this milk.
You can have the snack queen. I'll go over here. The pick that was going to be my number 2 that I called the audible at the last minute was Dr. Sean McGuire from Good Will Hunting.
See, now I didn't pick him because I thought of him more as a therapist than a teacher.
Again, he's a teacher, and we see him in a classroom.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, he did teach me that Darwin did a lot of coke. So that's what he personally taught me. So there is that. I'm not debating whether he was a teacher or not. I'm just saying that the movie focused more about outside the classroom per se. So I was going to make a strong argument for him, and I don't want to keep going in case somebody else has him on their list. So let's move forward. But that's why I changed it up to Scott Voss. And then the other honorable mention is Mary Poppins. So there you go. That's my honorable mention.
Mary Poppins?
The nanny.
Okay. I mean, I guess, a governess would teach her
governess. That's
her wards. Yeah, I like it.
It's hot too.
I don't know what she said. I don't know what Dave said, but I think he agreed with me. So I'm just gonna go with Mary Poppins. I'm gonna take the win. I don't know what he said, but I'm gonna take the win, man.
I think I upset Missy when I sexualized Mary Poppins.
It's fine. I have a therapy appointment tomorrow, so take care of it.
Which one?
The original, man.
Oh, okay. I mean, you make it seem as if the fucking
no, don't get me wrong.
Dog shit.
No, don't get me wrong.
Emily Blunt.
Yeah, no, nothing. Well, absolutely nothing against Emily Blunt, but I was specifically referring to.
I will say when I think Mary Poppins, I don't think Emily Blunt.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good one too. All right, so
oh my god, I can't.
Round 1. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back.
Do it. Come on.
All right, man. Number 1 picks. Dave, what we got?
All right, so my number 1 is John Keating from Dead Poets Society.
Mine too.
So you want to go first, Debona?
No, go ahead, man.
Okay, so in my
is it Dan? Is it Dan Keating?
John
Keating.
John Keating. Right. So throughout my academic career, my English teachers were always my favorites, and that is very likely why, when I decided that I did want to teach, I was teaching English as opposed to teaching history or something, right? And when I first saw Dead Poets Society, I was in high school. So this is a number of years after it had come out already. I would say that Robin Williams' performance as John Keating is just as influential on me becoming an English teacher as any of my English teachers. This is, in many ways, who I model myself after as an English teacher. The way that he challenges his students to question authority, to think outside the box, to look at the world from different angles, to do what makes you happy. All of those things are things that you would hope your teachers are teaching you and your children. And sadly, as the movie shows us, that's not the case. And you don't have to go to some ritzy private school to have that sort of behavior shut down. It happens in public schools, where you're told, hey, so this is the curriculum, you're teaching to this state test, don't go outside of the box. And I had, when I was teaching in public schools, a number of administrators tell me that my way of teaching was unorthodox and they didn't care for it. And I was threatened a number of times. And that's part of the reason why I left the public school system. I can say with 100% certainty that if it weren't for the teachers in my life, like John Keating, and for John Keating, I would not be the man that I am today. And it's because of teachers like that I think we have good people in this world who are willing to stand up and say, no, this is me. And this is how I see life. And it's not always easy, right? In fact, it's oftentimes a very laborious work to do that, but still you persist. And my favorite thing about that movie is that once he's taken the fall for the new Dead Poets Society, and he goes back to his classroom and he picks up all his stuff, there's not a single ounce of malice in him. He understands that this is what he needed to do to give these kids a fair shake at life. And
Kids. Every time I hear that phrase, these kids. How can I get through to these kids?
But if I'm half as good a teacher as John Keating is, I think I doubt it too.
It's just a funny thing to say, Missy. He's not fucking hurt. Hey, Jesus, let the joke ride. The moment you make the joke real, then it becomes real. I was joking. I don't know how. I've never seen they haven't. When they make a movie off David, then we could compare the two and say which one's a better teacher. I don't know.
That's a good question, Dave. If they were making a movie about you being a teacher, who would you want them to cast as you?
Well, I mean, they made 3 movies about me and my people. They then did the extended editions. Which were considerably longer. They then did a prequel trilogy.
This is my fault. This is my fault, guys. This is my fault.
Well, the moment you asked the question, I was like, well, they already have Frodo, so I mean, you're gonna have, the same guy who played him the first time around, I guess. But that would be a good question. Who would you guys get to play you guys in a cinematic movie about your teaching career?
I've been told that I look somewhat like. I think his name is Jared Padalecki, the guy that plays Leonard in Big Bang Theory.
The Big Bang Theory?
Oh, right.
He's also David from Roseanne.
Right.
Whatever.
No, it's not Padalecki is it? Galecki. Padalecki is from Supernatural.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I was like, that's what you're like. I've been told I look like Padalecki, and I was like,
No. The guy from Big Bang Theory. I am not hot enough to be any of those guys from Supernatural.
I'm wondering. Here's the thing. All right, so not based upon looks, based upon who you think could pull off your style of teaching. Who would you cast?
Man, maybe Dan Fogler.
It would, from honest, and I talked about him earlier, but it would be Jack Black. I mean, that's how I teach, man. It's funny with my connection to Dead Poets Society starts on a very different track than David's, which is when I was in high school, I hated English. I mean, I love reading, but I hated the way that my teachers taught English. When I went to college and decided I was going to be a teacher, I thought I was going to be like a history teacher and a baseball coach. And then I saw this movie and I was like, "Oh my God, are there English teachers that don't just constantly tell kids they're wrong for interpreting something differently than them?" And so then my thought process became, man, like, what if I took something that I didn't like in high school and I became a guy who made people who don't like it? And I was on track to do high school English for quite a while before I fell into the fact that I'm just very good with small kids and with special ed. But so I saw this movie my freshman year of college and kind of changed my track. And but then when my teaching career starts, it sounds like we've had some very similar experiences where I very much model the fact that I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And if I'm not breaking any laws and my kids are learning and they're engaged and we're having a good time, then, do what you've got to do if that becomes the case from a higher up's perspective. And I started teaching from the perspective of, if I ever get let go from this job, I want there to be a riot. Like if I get let go because of the way I teach and it's because it's because it's unorthodox, then I want people to riot. Like I want it to be a big deal. And it was because I watched this and I was like, man, this guy just goes for it. He does what works and he's passionate and he makes these kids he doesn't just make them learn, he makes them love what they're doing and he makes them understand.
Can I just tell you something real quick? I would love to see kindergarten kids get on the table and say, "Oh, captain, my captain." I think that would be the fucking tits to just see a bunch of 4 or 5-year-old kids and be like, "My captain, my captain. Oh, captain, my captain." And I just think that would be the fucking tits. And you just see DeBono walking out with his box of crayons and shit, and he's just like walking out. It's fantastic. I would love that, man.
And man, like, you watch this movie and it's so emotional. And this is even comedic work included. This is far and away my favorite Robin Williams movie. Not just his favorite series, not just my favorite of his serious roles. This is my favorite Robin Williams movie. It's inspirational. It's a beautiful movie, and he's just this amazing man who makes these kids realize that you can like what you like, and you can find meaning in things that you've been told your whole life are meaningless. And he's just such an inspiration, and it's just, I mean, it's just so good. And like I said, yeah, this was I do the same thing as David, man. I think about the passion that he put into what he was doing, and taking kids that don't care about what he's telling them and teaching them and making them care. Not just making them remember it so they can take a test, but making them remember it because they love it and because they care about it and they want it to be a part of their life. And I know that, like that, from one angle, that it is a lot different to do that in kindergarten and pre-K, but I still take that same level of enthusiasm to dancing to songs that teach you the days of the week and the alphabet and stuff like that. And I make it something that they understand is important and it's fun, and they just genuinely come to love it. And this movie is a very, very big part of that.
That's awesome, man. I wish I would have seen this movie before I saw Good Will Hunting. I saw Good Will Hunting first, which didn't chronologically come out first, and I saw Good Will Hunting first, and I mean that's one of my top movies of all time, Good Will Hunting. And then by the time I saw Dead Poets Society, I was doing that thing where I was comparing the two, which you shouldn't really, because I mean whatever. Aside from the fact that they're the same actor, but I just didn't have that connection to it the way you guys do it. But I'm glad you guys have that connection, because it's like the fact that you guys made a career out of that connection to this movie is a beautiful thing. But Good Will Hunting better. All right,
that is the most heartfelt thing I've ever heard you say directed at me, Neri.
That is, I had to, bro. That's because you're dumb, bro. I can't. I don't know how to fucking. I don't know. Not take compliments. Missy, what is your number one?
I don't want to go. I'm so scared for my safety right now.
Come on, Missy.
I'm waiting for Missy to be like, pass.
What?
He's like, you know what? My number one's John Keating now too. Y'all go ahead.
Yeah, can I just what they said? Okay. I'm gonna keep it honest, and I'm gonna say that my number one pick is Sean from Good Will Hunting.
What the fuck? No, I'm kidding. I love it. I fucking
That's
love
a great
it.
pick.
Why would you?
No,
why would you not? Why would you feel bad about that pick? That was gonna be my number two. Why would that? Yeah.
Because in the context of their relationship, of Sean's relationship with Will, they're not student teacher in the traditional sense, which is what I built my list around. But I also think that if Will had gone through the traditional university, whatever, they would have crossed paths and they would have had a very similar relationship, and he would have had the same kind of influence on him regardless. So that's my leg that I'm standing on for that. And I think that really the essence, I have not seen Dead Poets Society, so I will put that out there. And I could have, but again, I felt like I would have been cheating if I tried to binge it now. It makes sense in my head, I promise.
I think what she's trying to say is that if she watches a movie, she's afraid that just because it's fresher in her memory, that it will rank higher. Yeah.
It's the David Concert theorem.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Sure.
Trademark.
Exactly what it is.
I gotta stop texting people as I'm driving home from a concert. Before I get into my car, I'm like, guys, this is the greatest show ever.
Because in Dave's defense, that year we all went to.
Actually, his autocorrect. It's actually his autofill. It literally is like, guys, it's like this, and it's like, is the greatest concert I've ever been to.
He just hits the middle button while he's driving.
He hits the middle button, and it's like, yeah, it's the greatest concert I've ever been to. He's like, yeah, I got it from here. I got it. It's fine.
Yeah. So anyway, I just think that I think the essence of their relationship is the very best parts of a teacher-student relationship that you could have, which is compassion and empathy. And it's an adult or a person of authority or a person that is for lack of a better term, above you, coming down to meet you at your level and sitting with you, whether it's in the gutter or a diner or whatever it is. And I think that when I first saw this movie, I had a similar kind of impact in how Dead Poets Society had an impact on you too, where I was like, I want to make that kind of change in somebody's life. And the only avenue at that time that contextualized in my head that was possible was being a teacher. And I think that Sean, as a character, I would have loved to have him in my life. And for a million reasons that I could break down every single scene that they have together to explain to you why. But the gut punch, I think I said this a few episodes ago, where it's hard for me not to have emotional reactions to art that I connect to, like my DNA connects to. Cannot watch Hamilton at all. At any given point, you can drop me wherever you want to in that show, and I'll start sobbing. I just can't do it. And the "It's Not Your Fault" scene of Good Will Hunting, I could skip to that scene, and it just, because it's not just what Sean is saying, but what you're watching will cognitively begin to accept, and the level of tension and anger that somebody that has experience of dealing with abuse, whatever spectrum you want to land on.
It's not just what Sean was saying, it's what he wasn't saying at the same time.
It's what he wasn't saying. And that "it's not your fault" could apply. It's not specific to just abuse survivors, I think. It matters to tons of things that you could take and you could be like, man, I could have gone left and not right, and now this is why XYZ. It's not your fault. You didn't know. So, but in the context of that conversation, that it's not your fault, and connecting to that connecting with Will on that level where you're, for the first time it occurs to you that the actions taken by other people, like, you did nothing wrong. It was that they're projecting their shit onto you, and unfortunately you had to deal with it, but it's not your fault. And that's such a powerful thing for somebody to tell you. And the capacity of their relationship, it's said between therapist and well, unofficial therapist or whatever, counselor, mentor. But I really do believe that it's because Sean is a good teacher that he's able to reach Will the way that he does and build the connection that he does and do so much good for this kid that really is just like kind of banging his head against the wall without, and it just takes one person to kind of like shake your shoulders and be like, stop and, you know, put things in order for you. And I don't think that in the context of this relationship, the character Sean would have been as good as what he was doing or what he did for Will if he hadn't been a teacher. And that to me is why I think, as far as, again, my mountain may change when I watch the list, like, you know, when I come across the movies that I haven't seen, I'm completely open to it. But I actually own Dead Poet Society, and I know that I'm gonna fucking love it. Like, I have the same instinct about Dead Poet Society that I did about Across the Universe, because I never saw Across the Universe in the movie theaters, but I bought it because I was like, I know that this fucking movie is gonna be amazing, and that's what
it's
I
like
did with
me
Dead
and Charlie's
Poet.
Angel. It's like me and Charlie's Angel. I'm like, I know this is gonna be a good movie.
Except you were totally wrong about that, but whatever. So anyway, so yeah, that's my number one. I know that it doesn't fit the
no,
straight
it fits your criteria, and
Right.
that's all that matters.
And
I had
like
it as my number 2, and that's fine.
And like I said, I only said that like, because the reason that the way I talked myself out of also having him, like the reason I justified him not making it mine was I was just like, well, it was like a therapist thing, so I'll cycle him out. So I've got no problems with him being there. That was just my reasoning for taking him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm 1,010%. Again, he was my number 2. I love this movie. It's to me, that is like what the bonus said about the Dead Poet Society. To me, Good Will Hunting is my favorite role of Robin. And again, this is we're all huge Robin Williams fans. We should probably do a mountain of it. But that to me is the top, the creme of the creme is Good Will Hunting. His performance in Good Will Hunting is great. So you don't have to defend that pick at all, BFF. That pick is fucking fantastic. I love that movie. I love that character. Everything, the way he gets him to open up, he starts talking about baseball. That scene to me, where he's talking about baseball and he's like, "Oh man, did you rush your field?" He's like, "What? No, I was at a bar. I mean, even talking to my future wife." And he was like, "What the fuck? What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Yeah." And your friend, who are you? These friends that let you? Just like, they knew I was serious. I just pushed the ticket across the table and said, "I gotta go see about a girl." And that fucking line to me, I was like, "Oh my god, I gotta go see about a girl." So I fucking feel you, man. Hey, how are you?
He can't hear us.
No.
No,
He's got a sweater. I was like, why does he look like he's a floating head?
He looks like Raven.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah,
but that's a great pick, BFF. That's a fantastic pick. Number 1, Sean McGuire.
He has a last name, Dr. Sean McGuire. Yeah.
I know.
Hi guys. Hi Lincoln.
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
All right, we're good. So Sean McGuire, and my number 1 is, again, I'm still like, I know, I get it. Dave is very busy and he does a lot of things, and he doesn't have time. But this is one of those movies where I wish you would have seen it, because it's such a powerful movie. And I saw it for the first time maybe a year ago, or 2 years ago. I don't know. I don't think it was that long ago. And it was balls to the wall, amazing on every aspect. And my number 1 is Mr. Holland from Mr. Holland's Opus. To me, it showed. It was everything. We talked about teachers who didn't want to be teachers, who were just taking this in the meantime. They were just taking a gig because it pays the bills, and he's writing his opus, and he's writing this thing that he's going to finish. It's going to be great. And then his wife gets pregnant, so he needs a job, and he goes get it. And you want to talk about a scene as far as, not to spoil anything, but as far as like, hey, I want there to be a fucking riot if I ever get fired. You watch Mr. Holland's opus, you go, God damn.
Oh,
and
yeah,
you
man.
see that final scene, you go, holy, I couldn't, I busted open in tears multiple times in that movie, multiple times. The fact that he was a music teacher and he loved music and he loved being a conductor, and then his son is born with a condition, and it's mind blowing. Again, I'm trying very hard not to say things because I really want my friends who have not seen this movie to watch this movie, because it is, to me, when I saw this movie, if I would have seen this movie in high school, I would have been a teacher. I believe that wholeheartedly. I'm like, I would have been. It was whole other level, man. It's whole other level. Richard Dreyfuss, I dare say, at his best performance.
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt, but I'm going to now. In a reality where Jaws exists, this is his best role.
Did you see the movie finally, Dave? I thought you said you hadn't seen it.
Oh yeah.
I thought you said you hadn't seen it. Oh yeah. But I thought. Oh man, I thought you had said that. All right. So yeah, I love this role. I love this movie. What he tells his kids when he's talking to that one kid, and again, not spoiling anything, but he's taking that one student who has massive amount of talent and just doesn't give a shit. And he takes him somewhere, and he said, "Who was that?" He said, "It's another student that I had that had far less talent than you have, but had so much more. Gave everything he had to music." I mean, that was just beautiful, dude. I get choked up thinking, I fucking love this movie. And the only reason I don't watch this movie more often is because my tear ducts would not allow me to. They're like, hey, bro, what are you fucking doing?
Man. Yeah, no, and it's also one of those movies where I don't know if Dave has experienced this or not, but it's one of those movies where there's a couple of quintessential scenes that always show up like at beginning of the year, like teacher meetings, like, let's remind you why you do this. It's like, here's a scene. It's like, here's a scene from, Remember the Titans, and here's a scene from Mr. Holland's Opus and stuff like that, So
Neri and I had a I think it was about a year ago that he and I were having this conversation, and that exact scene about the sun and all that came up, and I was like, I haven't seen this before. He's like, oh, you got to watch this shit. And I knew about the movie specifically because anyone who does a professional development at the beginning of the school year is going to do some sort of video compilation, and Mr. Holland's Opus is going to be
absolutely.
Just that movie?
No, it's going to be filled to the brim with like teacher moments, but you're going to have the Mr. Vernon, you mess with the bull, you get the horn.
Yeah, and you're going to have the scene from I think it's called like Fighting with Giants or something, and it's like
Facing the Giants.
Facing the Giants. Yeah, like there's just certain scenes that are in all beginning of the year professional development.
Take off your blindfold. You're in the end zone.
End zone. Yep.
Missy bought that movie.
I fucking knew it.
Missy bought that movie for that one fucking scene. And when I told her, when I saw it, I was like, why did you buy this movie? And she said it was on sale for $5. And she then said, I only bought it for this one scene. And you have to look at this one scene. And I put my hand up and I said, is it the scene in the football field where he said, take off your blindfold? And she said, oh, so you've seen the movie? I go, no, but I have YouTube and I've seen the fucking clip. She spent $5 to buy one scene that she could have just looked up on YouTube.
You know what? I pride myself
or been at a teacher conference, apparently. You just go to a teacher conference and they have that fucking scene.
I pride myself on being able to come up with an argument for any situation that he got me. I was like, yeah. I don't know what to do. Like, I fucked up. But yeah, if you ever want to watch that scene, it's in my couch.
If you ever want to watch that scene and and have to go through the trouble of fast forwarding instead of
if you want to work
right the scene.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm never gonna live that down.
You know what's funny? I didn't even know that you were talking about that movie. I didn't know you guys were talking about the movie, but just by the name. I don't know it by name. And so Dave said, take off the blindfold. I go, I got a story.
You're in the end zone.
Wait. And as he's saying that, I'm like, 10 seconds. I have a 10-second window, and this motherfucker's going to bring up that story. And sure enough, here we are.
Yeah.
So, all right. So
Guys, no one
Mr.
brought up
Holland
the
from Mr. Holland's
substitute.
Opus. The what?
No one brought up the substitute.
Yeah.
Doesn't he bring a gun to school?
The substitute was great, but you know which one was great too? John Belushi in The Principal. Oh, that's such a fucking good movie too.
I
man.
never seen that.
Never seen it.
Oh, it's so good, dude. It's so good. It was a substitute before the substitute. He's not a cop or anything crazy like that. He's a principal at a like posh school, and he gets in trouble for some arbitrary shit, and then he gets sent to an inner city school, and he's the principal of an inner city school, and it's him and Lou. I was gonna say Lou Diamond Phillips, but it's not Lou Diamond Phillips. It's Iron Eagle Lou. What's his name?
Lou Albano.
No, that's Captain.
That's Captain
No,
Lou.
from Iron Eagle. From what's Lou Gossip Jr. Lou Gossip Jr. and Jim Belushi, and they're like a team of like principal and I don't know what Lou Gossip Jr. played, but they take back the school from the fucking hoodlums, and yeah, man, it's I love that movie. I mean, it's again
Does it
when
hold
the
up
substitute
now?
came out. What?
Does it hold up now?
I don't think any movie really holds up now. Man. There's a lot of movies you go, oh boy. I think at the beginning of the movie, he was watching kids take a test, and he was watching a girl with like he was looking up with binoculars to see who was like if anybody was cheating, and then at one point the binoculars zoom over to a girl under her skirt, and so I don't think this movie fucking yeah, you know.
Turns out we frown upon that now. I don't.
That's why we call it the good old days, man. All right, so the number ones were John Keating twice, Sean McGuire, and Mr. Holland from Mr. Holland's Opus. We have 3 repeats. We have Professor Lupin from Harry Potter, Prisoner of Azkaban. We have Detective John Kimball twice, and we have John Keating twice. So those are the 3 repeats that we have, and then the rest, we have one more slot available for number 1. So
I'm gonna lobby for Miss Norberry. I think we should have a female teacher on the mountain.
To check the box, or because she's the best?
Well, she's also
no,
amazing.
he's literally saying to check the box because he put her as his number 4. So that's not.
No, she was my number 3, sir. My number 3, sir.
Yeah, but that's still not you still had 2 people above her. So it's not because she's the best. It's because you want to put a woman in there. And again, it's just for the sake of having a woman. I'm fine with it, but it's not because she's the best.
Well, I would like to diversify the mountain a little bit.
So to check the box.
Would you rather the box not be checked?
No, I would rather the box be checked because she earned it, not just because she has the female parts.
I think she earned it. I put her on my mountain.
But it's your bronze, not even silver or gold.
Yeah, my silver and gold are already in.
He wants the perfect mountain, dude.
I do want the perfect mountain.
Yes.
I played the female card for the perfect
fuck out of here. I'm like, all right.
But tell me I'm wrong.
I would no, because I'll fight you for Catherine Ann Watson over Miss Norberry. She did way more.
I haven't seen that movie, so I don't know.
I would rather Mary Clarence, Sister Mary Clarence, than.
I'm okay. I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that.
I mean, she's not really a teacher in the movie.
And
That's
she
fine.
checks off 2 boxes. She checks off 2 boxes, sir. A minority and 2 counts.
If I were gonna pick somebody for that 4th spot, I mean, I haven't seen Sister Act in God knows how long. I can't really fight for or against that one. I think that while Mr. Holland's Opus didn't make my list, I do think that it's a very inspirational story, and so much of it does hinge on what he's actually, like teaching as his subject and things like that. So I would lean
and plus,
more.
guys, the white male never gets any representation, dude. We have to put a white male.
So I've got two in there. I think the one thing I would say about Tina Fey's character is she does also check that box of like the cool teacher, right? Like she's the one who like people, like the kids want to be friends with, and they want to impress her and they don't want to let her down type thing. And that can be a very important part of being a teacher. So I honestly.
I was gonna say I like Mr. Holland, not just because of my pick, but that's I think he's a great teacher, and the whole movie was about him teaching. Like it wasn't.
That is also why I would lean more towards that, because that is a movie about his teaching, and the movie does hinge more on his lessons.
But also,
something
Miss
that
Honey
almost
adopted
never...
the fucking chick. So
shut up! That's a spoiler.
Something that almost never figures into our decisions. I think Mr. Holland is a much more iconic character than just about any of the others.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that him and John Keaton are really.
I feel
there.
like
Well, I'm talking about the ones that are in contention for the spot.
And that's why I would lean more towards Holland.
Yeah.
All right. So Mr. Holland is great. I got two. All right. So we got Mr. Holland, John Kimball, John Keating, and Lupin, Professor Lupin from Harry Potter: Prisoner of Azkaban. That is our mountain. Thank you guys for checking us out. Make sure you check out the other podcasts on the Geek Bro Network. Make sure you guys go to geekbro.net, check out the other podcasts, including, but not limited to, the other podcast that the Bona is a part of, which is What You Got, which you could go on geekbro.net and click on the link, and you see all his YouTube adventures of eating food that he probably should not be eating.
It's going to actually kill me.
Yeah, and then the other podcasts include, again, not limited to, pero let me tell you, What's Up, Bro, Mamas of Merlot, and Comedy Fitness. So make sure you guys check that out. Check out Missy's writing at missythewriter.com, missywrites.com.
MissyWrites.com.
I was going to say, I didn't know it changed.
No, it's MissyWrites.com, and it's Missy the Writer on Instagram.
There you go.
I'm going to write soon.
One of them. MissyWrites.com and Missy the Writer on Instagram. Thank you guys for checking us out. Check out my podcast. My website at naryscience.com or whatwashisname.com. I'm trying to get back into posting comedy clips of me doing stand-up. Obviously, they're old because we're in a fucking quarantine and we can't do stand-up anymore because Florida is Florida. Thank you guys for checking us out. That's how lists are made.